Hiya, how are you? Hope you're doing well this evening. It's Monday night, November 27th, and I was just sitting here digitizing some records, and I wanted to talk about these records because I love them. Probably not a lot of people will watch this video. I hope they do because these are two incredible records that I think everybody should own. And I'll just get right into it. I talked about this artist earlier this year. His album that came out earlier this year is still in my short list for my favorite albums of the year so far. It's just a phenomenal piece of work. I highly recommend anybody check this out, regardless of what your tastes in music are. His album that he put out earlier this year is called The Depths of Space, and I talked about that, and that is a great record. An even better record, in my opinion, is this one, Isolated Systems. This record came out in 2020, I think, like 3 or so years ago, 3.5 years ago. This came out like right around the pandemic, like when the pandemic slammed down and this album hit. Like every time I listen to this album, I think of the pandemic. I mean, that's not a bad thing. I think music helped get us through those early scary pandemic times, and this is one of those records that just it scratched that itch, man. It was the perfect vibe and the perfect mood for what I needed during that first 6 months of the pandemic, really. And yeah, I want to say this came out in the spring, maybe summer of 2020. This man here, ASC, his name is James Clements, by the way. I didn't mention his name. I didn't know how important it was to mention his name, but his name is James Clements, and this record, regardless of it being over 3 years old, has gotten me through many days. This is one of the best albums I've heard in the last decade by a long shot. He, like I mentioned in the video earlier this year, he's all over the place. He makes ambient and techno, and he makes drum and bass as well. And he makes all kinds of different ambient and techno music. And his drum and bass jungle stuff, like this, is out of this world. It is fantastic. And this record album is one of the greatest drum and bass albums I've ever heard. And I'm counting Source Direct in there. Anything LTJ Bookham. I'm counting all of the greats. This is one of the best drum and bass records albums I've ever heard in my life. Isolated Systems. When I was listening to this just now and recording it and digitizing it, it's just an exciting sound, man. Everything this man does, I would highly recommend you pick up. Whether it's ambient or techno or drum and bass, whatever it is, this man's production style is just on another planet. From another planet, I should say. And yeah, this is one of his best. Isolated Systems. This is full of cuts, man. 3 records worth of some of the most finely produced drum and bass music you will ever hear. The cut on here for me, all of the songs on here are amazing, but the cut on here for me that just blows me away, kicks me right in the fucking balls every time I hear it, is Thorn Without a Rose. And I'm gonna link to this in my video. Thorn Without a Rose. You drum and bass fans out there, if you've never heard this song, you are missing out, man. And I mean it, seriously. Thorn Without a Fucking Rose. What a song. And I've been listening to drum and bass for 30 years now, man. I consider myself a connoisseur of that kind of music. Thorn Without a Rose is one of the greats, one of the best I've ever heard. This man is creating a sound. He's bringing back a sound that existed a long time ago in the 90s, and he's twisting it to make it sound unique for today. I mean, it's got all those jazz inspirations and even ambient inspirations and all those things that make that liquid drum and bass sound so good. But he's taking it to another level in the year 2023, and this came out in 2020, and this next record I'm going to talk about came out this year. Arguably my record of the year. But this guy's taking an older sound and he's twisting it to sound like more modern, but timeless, all at once. And in my opinion, that's a hard balance to pull off. And this guy does it. So I wanted to make a relatively quick video, I guess. Hopefully this video will stick in your minds and just check this man out, ASC man. And he does create a lot of different types of electronic music. Lately, in the last few years, it seems like he's been doing more drum and bass stuff. If you go a little farther back in his catalog, you'll find more ambient and straight up techno type stuff, which is all excellent. But for me, when he's doing his drum and bass stuff is when he's truly, truly special. And that's not to denigrate anything he does when he makes ambient music or techno music. That stuff's excellent too, and I have those records as well. I have, I mean, a box of this guy's records, man. The other thing about ASC, about Klements that I love is he's very prolific, but his stuff is excellent. Most times, at least for me, in my opinion, when an artist is prolific, I usually generally think that a lot of their stuff are misses. Not everything they do is really good because they're so prolific. But not so here. He's one of those rare, it's one of those rare instances with ASC where he's very prolific, but the quality is always there. This guy's just on a roll, man. This guy's on a magnificent roll. And this is, in my opinion, this is his greatest work to date, ASC Isolated Systems. Check this bad boy out, man. Absolutely fantastic. I'll show you the records there on kind of like this frosty colored green wax vibe. Kind of cool. The pressing sounds fine too. I do have to say, if there was one negative I'd have when it comes to ASC records and records that come out on this label that he puts stuff out on, is the pressings aren't always great. These inner sleeves cause a lot of surface surface marks and some noise and some really loud pops. The pops aren't consistent, but they're there. And I'm not going to point out the label because I don't want to make it sound like I'm ragging on them, but this isn't a terrible pressing. It's not as good as it could be. And that's the problem with the next record I'm going to talk about too. Not the greatest pressing, but the music is just amazing. But Isolated Systems, do yourself a favor and check this out. And I will link to, I'll send a link to this song, Thorn Without a Rose. I mean, man, what a song. Absolutely love that song. And a brilliant album. Check it out. Now, this record, I'm going to show this too because this is ASC related. This is Robert Haigh, or Haigh, or his last name is spelled Haigh. So I don't, there are multiple ways you could pronounce that. There are several possible ways, but I'll just say Robert Haigh. This is maybe my record of the year, and we're pretty much done with November. Something really amazing would have to come out in the month of December for me to change my mind. This is Robert Haigh, the Spatial Remixes, and you get two remixes. You get two tracks on this 12-inch, just two. You get an ASC remix, and you get an Aural Imbalance remix. Both remixes are astoundingly good. The ASC remix in particular. For my money, the ASC remix is one of the best ASC tracks I've ever heard. Unbelievably beautiful track. Let me show you the labels. And again, just one song per side. That's the ASC side. And then Aural Imbalance mix on the other side. Basically, they're just taking a couple of tracks from Robert Haigh and remixing them. Not the greatest press. My press had some weird marks on it, and it plays okay, but it could have been better. I won't name the label. You can figure that out on your own. I don't want to seem like I'm bad-mouthing record labels. I don't want to get into that, but not the greatest press. But the ASC remix on this is absolutely gorgeous. And I will link to that as well, if it's on YouTube. I'm assuming it's on YouTube. Maybe it's not. I don't know. Beautiful stuff. Just some of the most soulful electronic music you'll ever hear. And this could be my record of the year, album or 12-inch, whatever. I have listened to this record many, many times this year, and I'm finally just getting around to digitizing it so I can blast it in my car, which I plan on doing tomorrow morning on my way to work. So pretty much the reason I just recorded this because I want to have it digitized and in my phone. I don't think you can find this on Apple Music. I looked for it and it wasn't there. This is on Apple Music as it is a lot of ASC stuff, as well as Aural Imbalance. These guys are pretty good about putting their stuff out on Apple Music. Not hard to find. So you don't have to go and seek out the vinyl. That's not necessary at all. This though I don't think is digital, at least here in the United States. Not that I know of. Maybe it's on Bandcamp. I don't know. I don't care. I have the record. I want the record. This is a gorgeous piece of work. Robert Haigh, whatever, spatial remixes. The ASC remix, I'll link you to it. You can make up your own mind, but in my mind, this is the record of the year. A couple of remixes, but hey, who cares? This is gorgeous stuff. Those of you who just like experimental music, I was going to say experimental electronic music, that is also true, but those of you who just like experimental music that has heart-breaking melodies to it, look no further than this, and I'll link to it. James Clements, a true stud. And he actually reached out to me when I did my video earlier this year. So one of the great things about YouTube, you have a YouTube channel and you talk about stuff. These artists will look up their own stuff and reach out to you. Seemed like a nice guy. We only said a couple of words. I floated it out to him. I asked him what he thought of possibly doing an interview for my channel, and he more or less politely declined. I think he said he was camera shy. James, if you're watching this video, come on, man. What are you scared of? We'll have a beautiful chat. We don't even have to talk about music. We can talk about whatever the hell you want. And you don't have to put your face up there. You can hide your face. You could wear a cloak. You can wear a burqa. You could wear something where you're not showing yourself. Come on, man. What are you scared of? Let's do this. Let's do this, my friend. Your records are brilliant. Let's talk about this stuff. Or not. We can talk about cooking if you want. We can talk about jogging. We can talk about drugs. We can talk about smoking. We can talk about movies. We talk about whatever the fuck you want. Come on, James. What do you say, buddy? But seriously, people, this and this, Jesus, I mean, God almighty, some brilliant stuff going on here. Check out ASC. Even his remixes are worth it. And Aural Imbalance. And when I say oral, I mean oral, like auditory, Aural, if you can't understand what I'm saying there. Aural Imbalance. You can find his stuff on Apple Music as well. Check these out. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous records to get you through the day. All right, man. Until next time. Bye.